In this session, we'll talk about how we can create the scripts in Databricks to pull the data from Azure Data Lake Store, then uh, convert the source data, raw data, into meaningful information, and store the output results into Azure Data Lake Store. Then move the output result from Azure Data Lake Store to Azure SQL DB. And use ADF, Azure Data Factory, to coordinate the entire process, right? For this demo, I'm assuming that we should have the basic knowledge of Azure Data Factory, Databricks, ADLS, and TSQL. We are not going to cover how we are mounting Databricks to Azure Data Lake Store or connect the various connectivity between the source systems and target systems and the Azure Data Factory, right? So to move to the actual code, let me go to Internet Explorer. Yeah, so this is the workspace for Databricks. So I picked it up from the main Azure dashboard. So these are the services I created already. I just clicked on the service and opened this Azure Data Factory. I mean Databricks. So look at this first statement. The first statement is picking the data from the file stored inside Azure Data Lake Store. Here is the path and store and creating the data frame. So while creating the data frame, it says to Spark that to infer schema, meaning the Spark has to go through the entire data and set the schema for the data. And the file contains a header, and so it has to mention to Spark that the first row is header, else it will consider as data. So let's execute this. And the next statement is the data frame contains a lot of fields, and for this particular transformation, so let me explain what the high level transformation we are doing. We are taking three fields from the source data, that is license number, status, and the city, and finding the count of licenses in each city based on status. Okay, but if you look at the input data, that raw data, I can see that the license number is DCA space license space number. So I want to convert that into more precise word. So I just given alias and made it as license num instead of the actual name. Same way I have changed the license status to status, address city to city. For using the these columns and alias, we have to import the function called call from pyspark.sql.functions, right? Looks like the first statement is completed, and let's see what exactly the result is. For that, just type read from file.show. I can take just 10 records. So these are the fields available in the raw data frame. And please note that Spark is case sensitive. So if we need to give the same name that we provided on the first statement. Okay. So this is just for showing the result set. I don't want this cell while executing from ADF. So I'm just removing this. So once we get the required fields from the source system, source file into data frame, the next step is grouping the result set based on our city and status. So what we are picking, we are finding out the total count of license, right? So for that we need to use this count distinct. We need to import it. Then this is our data frame. In the data frame, you need to select the fields that we need to pick it up. If 4 or 5 field is there, you can restrict to 3, but here we have only 3 fields that we are pulled into the new data frame. And we are grouping the result set based on city and status using group by function. And finally, we are aggregating the result using count distinct method of license number. So we are giving the alias so that we can have a meaningful name for this aggregate result. So I'm giving count of license. Okay, let's execute this. Oh, sorry, we need to execute the previous statement. Yeah, yeah. Now we come here and execute it. Yep. So I'll add another cell here. Let's see what is the result set. So you can see the result set is neat and clean, city, status, and count of license. So let me close this cell. Okay. So the final statement is read the data from the data frame count distinct df and convert that into Parquet format and storing into processed file, processed path. So this is the data frame. We are going to write that data frame, and if the file is already existing, this will overwrite. And what format? It is a .parquet format, and this is the path where we are going to store, right? So this is all about the Databricks, and we are going to store the result set into Azure SQL DB. So let's go to the Azure SQL DB. This is the table we are going to load. So if you look at there are total 350 3559 records available, and let's go to the Azure Data Factory. So this is the pipeline that we are going to use in this demo. It's very simple pipeline. There are 3 activities involved in this. One notebook activities to call the Databricks script, and one store procedure, one copy data. So the store procedure is to clean the table before the load. So let's go to SQL and see what exactly it is. So this is a store procedure, and let me go there. So the store procedure accepts one parameter, and it add with another variable use by connecting truncate table statement, and finally this is dynamic SQL, and finally executing it. So basically it accepts the table name is parameter and truncate that table. Okay. So click on notebook. I just given the name to transform data and didn't give any description here. Timeout is default, retry default, retry interval default. I didn't change any properties here. So if you look at the Azure Databricks tab, here is where we are giving the connection. If you want to see the connection, just click on edit. So this is the region where we install the Databricks, and this is the access token used to connect from ADF to Databricks. You can use Azure Key Vault to store this token and give the Azure Key Vault name. We'll explain that portion later, different session. Then we have option whether we need to use new cluster or existing cluster. So I already created the cluster, so I'm using existing cluster. And in the drop down box, you can see the cluster ID. I'm not sure why it failed. Let's see. Yeah, it's successful. Its connection is successful, and the cluster ID is created at the time of creating the connection based on the access token. So yeah, we'll explain that in the different session. So I'm canceling this. And in the store procedure, the same way, it is the name, timeout, retry interval. I didn't change anything here. And click on the next tab, SQL account, where we have given the connection to SQL DB, that is my SQL DB, right? Click on the edit connection to see how we connected. This is the database name. I'm using SQL authentication, username and password, right? Just click on test connection and cancel it. Yeah. And the next step is store procedure. I have given this store procedure name here, and it is having one parameter. So I imported the parameter, given the value as license count. Even this also we can have dynamically we can give the name, but in this demo it is not required. If you want, you can add dynamic content here and give the name based on some variable or something. um, then once you call the store procedure, the final target table will be truncated, and next step is copy the actual output result into Azure SQL DB. So if you look at here, copy data activity, we have source and sink. Source should be um, from the output file generated from Databricks. So here you can see the source dataset format is license I selected. That is nothing but Parquet file stored here. So you can see the connection. It's a data lake gen 1, and this is the path where it is stored, right? And we'll go back here, click on the sync. So in the sync, you can see again it is sync database is connected to my DB, which is pointing to license count table. I'm not selecting in store procedure because directly we are loading into table, right? Now if you edit, you can see the same connectivity. There is no change, but only thing is we are selecting the table here, license count, and look at the schema. We have city, status and count. Okay, then if you go to mapping tab, you can incoming city status and count of license is mapped to city status and count of destination table. So we all clear. Now we are going to execute this pipeline, and there are two options to execute. One is debug option and another one is trigger. So if you're not sure about the pipeline, whether it executes completely without any error, then you can go for debug and make sure that each and every activity is working fine. And once it is proper, you can add a trigger to schedule it. But if you execute through trigger, the result of execution will come under monitor here. It will come under here. If it is through debug, it will come under bottom of this window. Let execute now. So you can see on the bottom of the window, so currently it is executing the first activity, and you can keep on refresh um, here to check the status. So once it is complete, the status color will change to green, and status will be succeeded. So if you want to see what exactly is happening in this activity, click on this and go to the Databricks. So this will show you the current execution of Databricks. This is completed. First statement is completed, second one is completed. So we can see everything is completed without any error. So let's close this, go back to the data factory, click here. See, you can see that the first two activities completed and the next one, the last one is running it. So same way I want to see what's happening there. So click here. Okay, so it's completed, but you can see what happened. So it is returned 3559 records, but before running this pipeline, we have seen in the table the record count is same. So if the store procedure is not executed, the number should be double in the database. Let's go and check. So count, see, it's the same count. So it means the store procedure is executed successfully. Now, if you look at this session, the first one, this will give you the parameter going inside the activity, right? See, notebook path we are passing as parameter, right? So that is there. And in the next session, we are just giving license count. This is the parameter passing into the activity. If you click on the other output side, if you are passing any parameter to the next activity, that also display here. Okay. Now, so in this session, we checked how we can call Databricks script inside ADF, also the store procedure by passing how we can pass parameter to store procedure, and finally how we can store the output results into Azure SQL DB. Okay, thank you very much.